Hello, how are you doing, everybody? Hope you are having a fantastic, amazing, beautiful day. We are starting earlier today. Actually, I've already started a little bit earlier than usual, than what was supposed to. And welcome. Thank you for being here on one more episode of Reading Club, The Thinkers. Beautiful. Hope you are doing fantastic. Let's rise up one more day for the Carl Jung knowledge. And I want to say hello to the only person that is watching us right now. Thank you so much for being there on that side. Please feel free to comment and say something. Actually, comment, please. For the sake of my mental health, please comment something. As I don't want to be talking here alone. So this reading club, The Thinkers, is the translation of the Portuguese version of the club. And today we brought a guest that talked about Jungian psychology. She is a psycho. How the hell is the name in English? Psychotherapist in the Jungian psychology. And it was really interesting because she talked about the concepts of Carl Jung that we are dealing with. It was really interesting to know and see that just by reading 3 books from Carl Jung, Man and His Symbols, Psychology of Unconscious, and Synchronicity, that plus watching some videos from Carl Jung, it was enough for us to understand what it is on our perception deeply, the concepts of shadow from Carl Jung, even though it is in the book. It's just books and 3 books and videos. But it was enough, at least for me, to see how that shadow applies in real life. For example, the shadow concept. It's really interesting. I cannot see a person that enters with the ideas of Carl Jung and it is not transformed by their ideas. These are so profound ideas. I can't even imagine what will happen to the world if we would share and implement ideas of Carl Jung in institutions, politics. I think it will be amazing. The world will be so much more beautiful than it is right now. So the shadow, in simple terms, it is where we have all the suppressed impulses, patterns of behavior that can potentially be manifested into the world, otherwise called archetypes, and we can activate, in my perception, every single archetype that we want, or enter in touch with any type of archetype. For example, if I'm reading a book from Carl Jung and I somehow enter with the spirit of Carl Jung, I am not activating the Carl Jung archetype in me per se, but I am actually I am entering in touch with Carl Jung archetype in a sort of way. So it's interesting to know that, and when I see these concepts by the lens of biology, it is even more beautiful to see this. Today there are like more than 250 organic codes that biology recognizes, which they are called archetypes in the Jungian psychology. So it is amazing to see that these concepts from Carl Jung, which they have like 50 years probably, a little less. Yeah, they were developed around the last 100 years or so approximately. And as far as I know, they didn't have not any type of scientific background than just, well, phenomenology and studying the inner self with the experience with the patients on sessions and so on and so on, right? So it is not something that we can that we see today, that we can replicate and see objectively, because in my estimation, it is so profound and complex ideas that I think they are replicatable in laboratory, let's say, but I think as they are so much complex that it is really hard for the scientists, that this is my argument, to conceptualize this scientifically and to prove that. Except now for the lens of biology, that it is recognized by biology, and I'm reading some of the papers, and it is really interesting, and it gave me a different perspective on the archetypes / patterns of behavior / Carl Jung psychology. So the shadow in some sense is where all the potential that we can have and explore in ourselves. It can be my archetype / my proneness to have a beautiful ability in teaching, in playing with my hands, playing with mechanics. So that can be an archetype that I can more easily have within me, that I can incorporate. And of course, archetypes are, if I conceptualize them correctly, influenced by the environment. And I think here is where epigenetics enters in form. Because if archetypes now they are backed up by biology right now, epigenetic would have a huge influence on these patterns of behavior and how they manifest, right? Because if it is on our genes, the archetypes which are on the collective unconsciousness, of course epigenetics has a huge impact here, the influence of environment on behavior. And I think it's a beautiful psychology, because of course it is now incorporating the genetic side, as well as the influence of the environment on us. And the more profound thing, in my opinion, that probably is coincidental with lots of things that some philosophers said, which is that in the intrinsics of our psyche, we have all the wisdom that we need, and the wisdom, it is within us, not really outside, and that we can see, and we should not underestimate our intellectual capacities and abilities that are within us and inherent to us, which is the thing that today more than ever is questioned. In my opinion, the instincts and knowledge that we have about things, right? More and more we question the reality, putting it in objective terms, and less we look, in my opinion, to these instinctual patterns of behavior that as we can have within, we can also detect in others, because the archetypes are in the collective unconsciousness. It is within us, and if it is within us, of course we can also detect more on others and access to what those archetypes mean, what is their knowledge. So I think it is powerful on that sense, the archetypical idea, and that we are just reproducing old patterns of behavior in a new fashion way, with all these technologies, but all the patterns of behavior, the war, the enviness, the jealousy, the wanting to conquer, all those connotated bad things are universal on our psyche, and in what we see, it's only replicas every single day, but where they just are different on the specificity of how they manifest into the world, which I think is, again, is beautiful to our psyche, and to not underestimate the inherent instincts that we have inside of us, which I think is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And yeah, that's a little bit of knowledge from the shadow / archetypes and patterns of behavior that are universal. And other thing that we touched on in the archetypes / patterns of behavior, it was the knowledge of the images, that images inhabit our psyche, and where those images comes from, and what those images can make us behave. And I shared a story about this Dr. Anna Lemke, where she, in this book, Dopamine Nation, she said that she was holding a baby. And as she was holding this baby, it came to the mind the image of her stabbing the child. And that's not good, right? A normal person would do what? Panic. It will panic, it will do, wow! My God, what the hell is this? Maybe anxiety, panic attacks, all those bad things. But as she's a technician and looks in a technical way to the psyche, she thought and questioned to herself, why I am having the image on my mind of stabbing my children? Interesting, right? And later she incorporated that image into her body as a sign of how she didn't wanted anything bad to be happening to her child. So that image was translated into caring, protection, taking care of, which was really interesting. And the doctor, the psychotherapist that was with us, Fatima Ponte, if you want, I can put in the link in the description. She's from Brazil, but she's in Portugal. If you talk Portuguese or want to know more about her, I can send you the link and contact information about her. And she said one interesting thing, which is those images that come to mind, they are from emotion, more properly, suppressed emotion in some sense, which I can understand the logic and the theory, but it doesn't fit for me as a 100% truth, as it is not inherent for me that images come before emotion. And they, in some sense, they do. They come before emotion, images, because it is suppressed emotion, in other words, not emotion that you see act out in the body. So it can be a philosophical matter of perception in the team, but still interesting to notice it. And it was interesting because, of course, that image, which she put the preposition that it might be was because of she was tired of taking care of the child, so she had that image that, of course, she did not want to kill the child. But it was translated again in the symbol of how much she cares for that child and how much she didn't wanted nothing bad to happen to the child. And it turned it into meaning, which is a beautiful thing that is on our biology. Meaning. Which is a thing that you can discover studying Carl Jung on this contemporary notion, is that meaning is on our code, biology code, meaning, which is a really profound thing to acknowledge, right? And a really profound idea. So she said that, and it's really interesting. You can see more of this if you want from Marcelo Barbieri. He's a biologist. He's the one that I heard a little bit, just a little bit, I should say. But I've seen uh, a little bit of his book, his cover, and the scientific article that is posted there. One of these books recognizes the organic codes of biology, and an interview of 1 hour he gave, and some more content. Really interesting too. To mix up these two concepts. Also, so it makes sense for me what she was saying, the Fatima point about that. I think these has some philosophical interpretations that can be really interesting, and I think there will be a lot of work for philosophers during next years. Really, even society, I think, is asking a lot for philosophers. In my opinion, we should give them more work and a lot more credit for what they are, in my estimation. Oh, and about the shadow, and on the shadow, it is also there things that are good. So in the shadow, it is not just suppressed impulses. No. It can be things that are good and the person can and should face. So it integrates on her body and mind to continue a living healthy life, which is beautiful in my opinion. And that can be, for example, a fear. The person has and suppresses a fear because it is a fear. So the person don't want to face it because it is a fear. And as the person is facing the fear, well, even if she recognizes the fear, it is putting the shadow on the spot of light, and that is really necessary for facing the fear, and of course, incorporating that energy into consciousness in a healthy way. Because if the consciousness or the mind is wasting energy with the consciousness is wasting energy with some things that are on the shadow, then the person is not taking his full responsibility and energy on what she is supposed to do. Daily chores. So we should be paying attention to what is on our shadow, or at least look to the shadow. And one thing that we should be paying attention in the shadow, it is when we go out of some place and we have some voices on our head saying, what the mother F, what the son of a F, she did that to him. Oh, the hell she did that. That's a shadow right there, a manifestation of the shadow. And it's healthy because no matter what, no matter how XYZ the other person is or did, it's just a human being. And as a human being, we should look at him as a human being with all his flaws and virtues and potential and things that can give and put to the world. So it's really interesting, this Carl Jung idea, because I think it puts us into a spot of making me think that in some sense it can be an ideology, right? Because if things bother or maybe not an ideology, but at least a set of ideas that we incorporate and act on while we are doing therapeutic practice. Yeah, that's the right way to put it out, because it doesn't say objectively that no matter what, the person is just a human being, like I told you. Directly, at least, because of course it is. But it is more that we see that not objectively outside, but within. Because we brought the thing that is outside to within, and within we explore what is a proper response to that in a therapeutic practice, which isn't, of course, to insult other person, because it's a waste of energy for the person that it is insulting. even though we do that to make revolutions in society, right? We go and put, no, I don't, but people go and put fire, they show their suppressed anger, their energy, and making chaos and throwing Molotovs into cars, like a tragic incident that happened these last days here in Portugal, where cars were burning, flaming, and everything was fucking burning. Was burning a lot. So it is really interesting to see that. Because of course a mature and human response would be to talk and to solve things in a way that of course it doesn't bother the person and it doesn't give him the necessity of insulting the other person, even if it is on his head, or wanting to impose something on the other person. But it is what? To talk or to solve the thing within and to accept that the other person is just like that and I move on to other place. Or if it's possible, and I think it's a more healthy approach, or one that we should optimize to use it, to talk to the person and to see how can we solve and finish the problem, right? So maybe the person, it is wrong, the one who is pointing fingers and insulting the other person in their head, maybe he is wrong, or maybe he is right. And talking like two civilians, the other person can see how he is right and help the other person see how he is right, how he is wrong, or what he is doing, he is not bad. Not that she is right, that what she is doing is nothing bad, or he. Which is something to say and to do and to notice and to act on. Really challenging, but really special, unique, and essential to our psyche. And of course, there's people that the person cannot talk to because they are just so immature that they just scream back to the other person and there is no possible conversation. Well, but that's problems of often for humanity, right? It is really hard to and for solve these problems, but they exist, and of course the best we can do is to help and comprehend in the best possible way. But this is why philosophers and psychologists and people of the world of knowledge should be entering here, because understanding this person profoundly and deeply, we can make more bridges between where the person is and to where the person can be. And in themes, I think, like domestic violence. Excuse me if I'm going to say something that it is rude. I hope it isn't. I'm just exploring my psyche and this knowledge. Sometimes we do this by force, right? So actually, that's what we do. We don't know what to do with a person that makes something bad, so society puts them in jail, for example, if it is really, really bad, if the person doesn't change the behavior, or the bad behavior that the person started, it is becoming more and more stronger in the worst possible way and bad. And the person is just things that are more and more bad, so it escalates. What the hell we do? Well, we put them in prison. It's like society don't know how to treat them, now to help them, so you put them just in jail. We just enforce them some norms that we have, so we are safe and they are safe, and we don't kill them, even though there's persons that are pro killing other people, which I don't agree. But of course they shouldn't be out in society with the possibility of killing us or doing bad to society. And that's interesting, because I believe that every single human being, even though it's a complex topic, can be cured, or at least with treatment be helped with a little bit. and definitely this profound knowledge of Carl Jung's ideas and sharing them, it is useful, because in my estimation, these people, lots of times they won't change because somebody is connecting with them, but they change because their perception inside somehow changes. And when the change is pure, the change is made full and completely within, and not by the projection of things of other persons into the other person. And we have an innate capacity to see if somebody unconsciously it is being acting on truth with us, or if he's not acting on truth with us. Like if the person is lying or not, we can smell that from a mile of a distance, or we can at least feel it or have that perception. With, of course, if you don't talk, we don't know. But we can see incongruences on others, even if that is more unconscious than conscious. And for some people, they can detect really easy if a person is lying or not. And I think is that the person that are on these situations, they are so bad psychologically that they just want some truth and justice on their lives. I think that's some people all they do. Some people that they are not going to get along with other therapeutic psychologists or whatever it is along on their game, because they are so frustrated with the injustices that they suffered on their life that they just want some truth. And everybody knows, conscious or unconscious, more or less, that the other person that it is helping them, it is there with an objective. It is not, let's say, completely because it is a profound good person, even though it can be a profound good person. But no, the pre-acquisition of meaning that a person extracts, it is that other person has some objective. And the objective, it is to help the other person so it doesn't make bad mistakes in society, and not to be a human being, to connect genuinely with other, and to continue life. And I think that's a problem, because I think that's exactly what happens. In some really deep unconscious way, the person doesn't believe the other person is there for them, but to solve some problem, so it's not them. They wish to desire and connect so deeply with truth, and to be accepted, to be comprehended, that they don't go along so easily with psychologists or psychotherapists or therapists or psychiatric or psychiatrists. And I think that's true, in my opinion, right? Because lots of these times is what people that were neglected the whole entire life, people that when they did something good they got rejected, so they wanted to contribute to other person in some way or to society, and they got completely rejected. They wanted to contribute, and more than rejected, they were punished for it. They saw injustice out there. All the other person has that, and I don't. And this can build up in lots of problems in society, right? It is not by chance that some people, they just to adapt and become a healthy human being, they just have to forgive others. When they forgive, when they comprehend, when they start doing this, pointing fingers up to down, like this, all 5 fingers, and we are like equal, or I put you like this, like I comprehend, and I help you pushing forward and upward, because I comprehend, because you were bad XYZ, you didn't have this necessity met XYZ. Boom. then there's psychological healing happening there, and that's a lot profound. That's hard to do because in some way you are forgiving slash helping in some sense, that in my opinion, like in the community sense, like sharing, talking to others about that person, about what happened. So you are like saying that person did that, so you are like deteriorating their moral responsibility and ethic on that society. Because what? Because people will know that that person is XYZ, did XYZ. But of course, that can cause a bad and healthy feeling inside of the person that is doing that. And in some sense, she tells that so it can feel better. That's why she talks to feel better, because the person is not going to be punished by him in itself, but by the society. Oh, I can't do nothing of what she did to me, but at least I tell the people, so the people will know that she is a bad person. People will do bad things to her, or it won't be happening nothing to them in a good sense, because people know what she did. But of course, people can not stop there. People can just go, not stopping with that healthy anger not disappearing. So from healthy anger, it comes from a dysfunctional anger, where the person just feels constantly the necessity to point fingers. And when the person stops doing that and put other person up, let's say, into forgiveness and comprehend them profoundly and deeply, that's when healing happens on the person that it is frustrated slash with unhealthy or healthy anger. So that's in some sense why it is so hard to forgive, right? At least forgive profoundly. Most people, they don't forgive, I would say. People, they don't forgive, they forget, which are completely different things. Forget, you forget. Forgive, you see, you remember, but you forgive. You let the person go. You don't feel the necessity to say how bad the person did X, Y, Z in the past. You just continue on with the path, and you let them go with the past, and you remember, and you have feelings of forgiveness, which is amazing and beautiful in my opinion. And that's why it is so hard. Comprehend their necessities and let them go up. And up can be sometimes better than the person that initially had that bad feeling towards them. So it is also humbling to forgive. And unfair in some sense, at least, because if this person stepped up on their ego and in some sophisticated way it had their ego fully and completely developed, they won't be able to get so much damage from the other person, I would say. And that is individuation, as far as I know, individuation for this person, right? The fortifying of the ego in a healthy way. That's deep and really hard to do. But there's not a lot of option, right? If you don't do that, we can die. Our inner self and true self can die, and we cannot get that individuation, which is what we want. So it's really interesting to have and know that. And yeah, in real practice, I think that's that. Forgiveness, I think it's that, in some sense at least. And so Carl Jung, it's really interesting to read. But of course, I'm mixing here lots of ideas with my own and inner interpretation, applying and seeing these in life, of course. Also, what else can I tell you? So the shadow is really interesting. The shadow can also be my feelings of anger towards others without me knowing it, right? So I don't have, but let's say a person has anger accumulated inside of him, inside of her. she will manifest that anger, suppressed anger, probably into other persons. Actually, it will be definitely projecting that anger somewhere. If it's not to others, it is to within, but definitely into others, I would say. More or less conscious, and that's really bad. Projecting anger conscious or in an unconscious way. But it's in the shadow, right? Because for the person just to admit that she is with anger because of the other person, or at least she says it because of the other person, it is painful, deeply, profoundly painful, for sure. And that is painful, and even socially painful, because you don't want to say, oh, I am with anger towards that person. The person does what? Well, the person suppresses it, and that is not helpful. It will be more harder to embrace for the own person her own passions, what she likes, she doesn't like, to act fairly with other persons, to other persons, because that anger will manifest. If it is not consciousness, it will manifest towards other in some sense or another. Actually, I think it happens all the time to all the people and they don't even notice. And that's why it is also helpful to look at the world objectively as it is, so we are less prone to absorb the interjections of others inside of us, I would say. And that's why it's very useful to see and look at the reality objectively, and that as it is, okay? Not with the facial expressions knowledge. Oh, she is angry because she did that. Not with that. Objectively, in the neutral term, socially constructed, right? Because you don't usually pay attention to that when you are talking socially. And well, that's interesting to know, right? And I think that's also a thing too. I think also with the knowledge of facial expressions, we can get into our shadow. Because, for example, Fritz Perls, I was in class and there was a projection of the movie of the Fritz Perls, not the movie, a clinical session of Fritz Perls, and the client, it is like just bending with their foot. Like bending their foot, the back of their foot always, while the client was while he was in session, the client, and Fritz Perls asked them in a session where we have all the preparation towards the session, we have the predisposition to have empathy, sympathy, to wanting profoundly to help the other person, to connect with them, to help them, accept them profoundly as they are without any type of judgment. And that's hard. that's hard, but that's what a therapist should do. And inside of all those conditions and variables that I said, and a lot more, the person and with of course the proper techniques, the person is more prone to answer to the following question in a gateway to what's behind that, which is, if your foot could talk, what he would say to us. Or if your feet could talk, what he would say to you. Well, or if your feet could talk, what he could say. And that can be an excellent trigger for the foot to start talking, to start bringing information to the table, to the light of what's really happening, what's the psychological reasons behind that foot bending all the time, zuk, 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 zuk. Because it is not normal, it is socially normal, but it is not normal that somebody from nowhere starts bending the foot, right? It has some reason behind it psychologically or idiosyncratically, or idiosyncratic reason. And that can be a gateway. And you can argument that, oh no, because how the hell, what the fuck, sometimes I'm just bending with my knees, for example, all the time while I'm sitting down, and they don't want to say nothing. That's because the ego mechanisms of you are up, they are not down. Because what? You are just playing out in the environment, you are just playing, joking, kidding. You are defending yourself if you need to socially, because people can challenging you. So what the hell you do? Well, in session what you do, as you are fully and completely acceptable and never negligiated, meaning there is no part of you that is rejected. You are accepted full and completely. As no matter how bad you are, somebody is helping you. As every good progression that you make, the therapist helps and gives you positive reinforcement no matter what. As you feel fully and completely acceptable, and you are you making these trips with him, well, your ego mechanisms, they go lower. As they go lower, information can come back to your consciousness, and you can start talking what the fuck the knees or the foot want to talk and say to you. Which is fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. I can't even believe that this is real, but it is real. It is goddamn real. Not Israel. And it's beautiful. Simply beautiful to see this. So this is amazing. And this explains why in the Freudian times, when she was bending down in the sofa, he would hypnotize people, meaning put them in a really deep, conscious, but in the sleepy state, so the information can come to mind. Why? Because the ego mechanisms of defense, they are not so active. They are just more acting out sometimes, and maybe in other times don't, into a state that they disappear. Not completely, it is never completely, but as they disappear, and information comes by, so it can transform the psyche, meaning it can come to the consciousness of the psyche, so the person can talk and somehow access their unconscious, so they know what the hell is going there. And that's funny and interesting to know. And this is why dreams are an excellent piece of information to the person, because dreams is where occurs the process of regulating emotion. And on dreams there is no ego mechanisms of defense. In dreams everything just comes to the psyche and go on. There is no filtering, there is no suppressing, there is no rejection. It is just full embracing completely the psyche and how the hell it comes to mind. And of course the dreams, they don't have inherently to be true in their objective way, but the dreams are full of symbolic items, and from symbolisms we can enter on the deeper world to fix whatever it needs to be fixed. And of course, according to Carl Jung, we never can enter deeply and completely, if we can even enter to what a symbol says. No, we can enter, of course, more consciously or more unconsciously, but we never can enter and access deeply to what completely and truly 100% the symbol means. But we can act and enter to the points that are causing pain to fix it, so the person can continue to live to live their life together alone with a more unified psyche. So that's beautiful to know, and really interesting to know too. So that's profound, that's deep. That it gives me to the bridge of the wisdom of the body, the organismic experience / wisdom, which is the body. Not necessarily the mind, but the body, to what the body is telling the person. So some people can have blocks, so they don't listen to the body, they just go for the reason and for the mind. But when the person listens to the body, what is part of the body is saying to me, what can I translate into words of what the body is trying to tell me? That is part of the emotion focused therapy and what it is. It has a lot to have with organismic experience, which is the experience of the body / on how the body acts. It is like organic experience. It is things that are related to organic experience, like acting out in the world and see what the organism tells me, right? And the forces that let's say, and I have some knowledge, my body is doing this, so it's this, my words match into the knowledge of my body, it's this, boom, that's great. And when we have opposite forces that want to counter argument with this one, we have phenomenology, which is some current of theoretical theory / current to explore and to do scientific investigation on the psyche. I'm not really sure if it is considered scientific. As if it is, well then Carl Jung, it is considered scientific, but lots of people don't consider it. But I think it's completely valid, as it gives us profound results, like the Carl Jungian psychoanalytical. Give us psychoanalytic, not psychoanalysis. Yeah, but it's considered the same thing. But what I'm saying is analytic psychoanalysis. Okay. It's still from Freud. Analytical psychology. It's more easy. It's not the same names translated into English. There are some substantial differences. Okay. Anyways. Carl Jung also talks about extrasensory perception, which I think is some derivative of organismic experience / knowledge, meaning that is from within and body. And of course, it's just a completely different way of looking at it, because extrasensory perception, if you look into parapsychology, oh my god, their origins of this type of knowledge, organismic knowledge if you want to call it, are from completely different sources, and they are completely different things, right? When I think of sort of psychology, acting out in the world, in the normal world, not in the real world, in the laboratory, is completely different than studying organismic experience in the laboratory, because when parapsychology acting out in the world, it is a lot more natural than we think, and I think it can translate, of course, into this type of experience. I don't want to mix the concepts because they are two different types of knowledge, and that's really interesting to know. I was seeing one theory that said that telepathy or extrasensory perception acts out in the mixed subconsciously with cognitive processes interacting with them, like in a continuum, but they are below consciousness. So it is part of these unconscious cognitive processes that are below of consciousness. And I think it's really interesting to see that statement made. It was in a scientific parapsychology journal. There is the annual journal from parapsychology that is published by Rhine Research Center. I think it's Rhine Research Center, but it's definitely where the John Kruth is the director on. But I'm not going to talk more about parapsychology. It can get me into into some places that I don't want to go. No. Maybe in the future. No. So yeah. Really interesting. Carl Jung is unbelievable. Unfucking-believable. My god. Anyways, what we talk more about with these psychotherapists on the analytical psychology in the Portuguese version. We talk about the impulses versus archetypes, where impulses are more like the biological way. That's better. The biological way, the biological substract of the manifestation of the archetypes, and the archetypes are more profound than the impulses. So the archetype is what I'm embodying it right now, and the impulses are what I am feeling to do at the moment. I have an impulse to do X, I have an impulse to do Y, I have an impulse to do Z. Which is also interesting, because we can counteract our impulses, right? An impulse to do X, an impulse to do Y, an impulse to do Z, an impulse to do A, B, C, D, E. Really interesting. Also, okay, I also talked about with Fatima Ponte about complexes. So complexes are complicated. I'm seeing the English nomenclature. Complex, yeah, complex. And complex, it is some type of really intense energy that it is inside a box, I'm sorry, where everything that touches near it, trying to open, it's just too intense, so it like gives you a shock. Boom, boom. As it gives you a shock, well, it is hard, so it can translate into real life like some suddenly reaction into other person, like bam, bam, like a complex of inferiority. The person feels inferior, so if somebody says something, they just have the impulse right now at that moment to say, oh no, but I am better, oh I can fit, oh I am very good at that. Nobody was even talking to them about if he can do that or not, but he just feels the impulse and the urge to say that he is better than that, than X and Y than Z. He feels that necessity inherently. And when we face that complex, it is like facing that box while it opens, and it is so painful, but then the person goes, and that energy that was being consumed unconsciously about that complex, it is manifested now into other types of energies into the psyche, so more healthy energy let's say, to all the social work that is necessary. The person is not so consumed to that, it is not monitoring to that. As we know, for example, when we are seeing something that goes into our eyes, it goes right into the thalamus, and from thalamus, if the brain detects that it is painful / dangerous, it goes right into the amygdala, so it can send information to your motor cortex, so you just act out in the world without even knowing what the hell you are doing or saying. It is so automatically that you just respond. If you want to put some little bit of neurology here. Actually, I don't know if it is also affects the motor part, but I feel so, right? People scream without even thinking, without going to the prefrontal cortex. So I believe the Broca area can also be activated without the person thinking a lot on that. As the automatic reactions from fear interfered by the amygdala, they don't require conscious processment. They just simply act out in the world. So you are driving, you see a car, you don't have time to think. You just brake. Oh! You didn't think, you just braked. So that's because from your eyes it went to the thalamus, from the thalamus to the amygdala, into the amygdala, just motor cortex and stop the car. Okay? No time to think. Think and conscious thinking takes time and energy. So we are cutting just these two because we are prioritizing safety. So the person prioritizes safety, so it doesn't have to take more dangerous efforts than what it should take. But again, this has a counterbalance force, which is, as it is more fast, it is less precise. It is less precise, then it can have some corruption here, because the fastest response, it is not always the best one, the more precise one. For example, a police cop sees a man in America grabbing his pocket to bring his phone, and he's black. So we know that Caucasian people, if they see black people in neuroscientific laboratory, they can have their amygdala activated, and we already talked about what amygdala can make. And yeah, so their amygdala gets activated, and then when the prefrontal cortex gets to work, it says to the amygdala that it is not a threat. So the amygdala, it has less reduction. And then the cop, it is a cop, and he saw hundreds, even if not thousands of people that grabbed his pocket to grab a gun. What happens? Well, amygdala starts to kick in, black, because of this neuroscientific reason. Don't call me racist, please. And because of this scene that is typical, very similar, of grabbing a gun into the pocket, even though I can see it. Amygdala starts to kick in, the cops shoot the person, shoot the guy, and he was innocent. There was nothing going on there, but he just decided to, he didn't decide, he just reacted to shoot based on his previous experiences and the influence of, I would say, phylogeny. Okay? Or more precisely, because phylogeny is not really precise. If it was phylogeny, I would say that probably we will not get amygdala activation when we saw something that has a color different than ourselves. So yeah, it's more like biology. Okay, 59 minutes and 48 seconds. I hope you enjoyed this 1 hour of Reading Club The Thinkers. I have a lot more to say, a lot more to explore, but I'm running out of time, and you posted no comments, so if you want me to talk more, post some goddamn more comments. Thank you, as always. Good luck.